Hi everyone, I'm Rulla Nehme Pontarelli, Certified Financial Planner, here today with my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Marcin Krolikowski. Just to let you know a little bit more about us as we're new to this YouTube channel, we wanted to share a little bit today about where we grew up and how that has affected who we've become up until this point. So, to kick it off, we'll have Marcin begin with a little bit of his story.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. And this is a very important topic, I feel, because the way you grew up and the people that really impacted you has, I think, a big bearing on who you are today. And there's also a lot of medical research that shows that the children in their first couple of years, how they were brought up, the values that they were instilled, has a big impact on what person they are today. So as you can probably tell by my accent, I am not born in the United States.
He's the very interesting one.
Although I do sometimes joke that my accent is from southern Louisiana and people fall for that.
Very doubtful, Marcin. Far-fetched.
That's true. So I was born actually in Eastern Europe in the early 1980s. And if some of you might know the history, that was still when the Iron Curtain was there. And we grew up in communism. My parents, even though they were medical doctors, we both grew up very poor. My dad used to earn about $30 a month, and in the communist system, everybody earns the same salary. So even if you're an electrician or a plumber or somebody else, you will be earning the same salary as a doctor. So during that system, there was also stamps. So my parents got everything on stamps, food, butter, meat, and gas, for example. So I think that made me very resilient. I was also brought up by my grandma, and she was actually part of World War II. So I think that made me very strong, because when I think about some of the difficulties that she had and how she had to often hide from the Germans and the Nazis attacking her, I look at sometimes my problems today and everything pales in it doesn't even compare to that. And I think that those two things made me very, very resilient and made me really a high achiever, never to give up. And another, I think an important characteristic from that was never to really feel sorry for myself. Because I think a lot of people nowadays, they feel sorry for themselves and they don't want to live up to the best possibility that they have.
True.
And just seeing, those things that just a fraction of what she went through and from what my parents went through, I think made me very, very strong. And basically, those are some of the characteristics that I still have to this day.
That's very touching and very, very relevant. I like the fact that Marcin brings up the point about not feeling sorry for yourself. And I think sometimes, particularly these days, we're getting caught up with a lot of individuals feeling sorry for themselves, maybe even oppressed. But if we look back at your family's history and even mine, which I will share, this type of thing has gone on for centuries. And it's not to say that it was okay, but we have to remember that this happened to many cultures and many backgrounds. So we can't continue to sort of follow this trajectory. I think that we just have to do the best for ourselves to make our lives and make our new lives and set our goals and fulfill our goals and, hopefully keep a positive
and always
attitude
keep fighting and keep strong.
Yes.
Don't in anything you want to achieve in life, there's always going to be difficulties. But you can direct your future. And whatever you believe, if you believe, there's actually a statement from Henry Ford. If you believe something that can be done, you are right. If you believe something can't be done, you are right. Mm-hmm. So always believe in that. Whatever you believe, that is going to have a big impact on what you are going to be able to achieve.
Mm-hmm. No, it makes a lot of sense.
Hopefully Junior is going to get here by 4.
Don't get me started on him. Don't get me started on him.
Okay.
So, okay. Well, a little different from your story, Marcin. I grew up in Little Old Providence, Rhode Island, our home state, recording live. But I am second generation, as you know, Lebanese and Syrian American. So my family has a story somewhat similar to your
Mhm.
family, and then obviously different. I think that having come from that type of background where we have a lot of conservative beliefs and parents can be very strict and really want you to focus on morals, on values, on education, that definitely helped shape me a lot from a young age. There were certainly times where I opposed what my parent, or mentally and physically opposed what my parents thought or maybe wanted me to do because they were newer to this country, although they became assimilated or fully assimilated. I grew up amongst Americans, other Italian Americans, and Irish American, and other Lebanese Americans. So I think the challenge for me was combining how everybody in the United States grew up and how they think relative to how my family, my background, where they came from and how they think. Similar to yours, as I said, there was definitely a genocide that took place in Turkey, and then subsequently wars in Lebanon, and obviously more recently in Syria. And fortunately, my family was able to escape that, but they lost a lot. And both of them came from very stable, established backgrounds, particularly my father's family, where my grandfather was a builder, and they did have wealth. But coming here, they had to, start from scratch, particularly my father. So that presented its challenges from running your own successful business overseas. So I think it taught me about work ethic, seeing them rebuild from the ground up. My mother came and studied undergrad here beginning at age 16.
Wow.
Yeah, she was very bright. So again, I think a lot of that helped create a nice foundation, and then I paved my way, to this path from there. It's unique.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for this opportunity.
That's
and
right.
I think that's what this country was based on. Those of us who come here, who want to make a difference, who want to work.
Because America is truly a melting pot, and I think
Yes.
growing up with, like you were lucky enough, you were Lebanese, but you grew up with Italians, with Syrians, with Turkish people. That has a big impact in your ability to be able to reach out to other people and be able to sympathize with other people. Similarly, me, I did grow up in Poland, but I had the privilege to live in many other continents. I also lived a long time in Africa. My parents worked there. I also lived quite a long time in the Middle East, and now coming to the United States. So I think that kind of education, that's something that you can't really teach in schools.
No.
Being open to a lot of different people, different beliefs, different religions, different peoples of color, different sex orientations. In my life, I, as I said, I've had the privilege to be around all of these type of people, and I think that makes me a much more approachable person, because when somebody comes to me with a certain problem, I can much more sympathize with that.
Sure.
Because you kind of lived in that, you've been through that, you know what these people are going through.
Right.
And creating that commonality with those people is very, very important to establish bonds, because if once you can create a connection, especially a connection on something that is very dear to their heart, things like, religion or any interest, values. I think that is very, very important, and I think that's one of the biggest strongholds that this country has. That it's a melting pot of different societies.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely, no, that's a great point. For those of us who have been fortunate or just have traveled overseas or resided overseas, I did study abroad in Spain. I've been to many countries as well. I think that when you're immersed in the culture, you really get to see what it's all about. You understand the people better, and then you're also less likely, I think, to make judgments. And you, just being a professor at Providence College, I think because you get to see a lot of these younger generation students, and we know how trends have changed and the way things work have changed, you not only have exposure to the old, but also to the new, really on a first-hand basis.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is nice. That's fantastic, really. Well, how does this?
Yeah, that's kind of the I actually now thinking about how all this affected to what I studied, because there's so many things you can study nowadays, and especially
for sure.
But back then there was a little bit less than nowadays. You can study pretty much anything under the sun. But I remember that when I was in college, I was like, I wanted to study history because I'm a really like a history buff. I like to watch a lot of movies about history, all the movies, read a lot of books. I like to go to museums and things actually especially related to World War II. So I was really into history and I wanted to study history. And then I proposed that idea to my dad, and he was like, "You're not gonna make any money with that."
Oh,
that
no.
So he basically is like,
Come
you can
on.
only go into things that you have substantial
Income earning,
payoff.
high
You don't
income
want to go
earning
to
potential.
university for 5-6 years and come out
Oh,
and not make a living. So he was like, well, you can only be like a doctor, an
yes,
engineer, or something
yes.
to do with economics. And funny enough, my dad is a doctor, so I think I wanted to be a doctor. My mom's a doctor too, so I went into the operating theater with my dad one day, and after that day, I was like, no, I don't want to be a doctor.
It wasn't for you.
It wasn't for me.
Not everyone has the stomach for it either. It's,
exactly.
yeah.
My grandfather was a lawyer, an attorney, but I think that was just too much by the books and too much learning. I didn't really.
You're not by the book, Marcin?
Yeah. Economics is more like it's an evolving field, and I got really attracted to it, and also the monetary component was attractive to me, and I don't know. I just liked it. Just in the first year, I really enjoyed it, studying what I am. And just from the get-go, as I say, I had limited options. So I tried, there was only like one thing left. So that's how
It was like a tunnel.
yeah, that was
A,
like
B, or C.
that was like a tunnel. And as Rulla
understand.
says, I think a lot of people, foreign people especially, they place a lot of value on education.
Absolutely,
So
they do.
my parents were always pushing me to continue in school, which did work out. So I am very thankful for what they instilled in me and the values. But that's how I specialized in finance and economics, and went to school for a long time, but it's all worth it at the end. And
Now this is the finished product.
This is the finished.
He has
it's
a lot in that head.
There's a lot in that head.
A lot to offer.
But it's more the people that you surround yourself with, and I'm very thankful and grateful to be working with Rulla here, and it's a wonderful partnership. So
Likewise, thank you.
You also, and I think
fun.
growing up in the United States, as I said, there's so many different designations and degrees that you can study.
Absolutely.
You can pretty much specialize in anything, but you also landed up in economics, finance field, and how did that come about?
Just like you, a lot of pressure was imposed on me too in the Middle Eastern culture. It's either a doctor, lawyer, engineer for the most part. Financiers, I think maybe are starting to become recognized now, especially in our country. I don't know about overseas so much, but I was about to enter after undergrad Suffolk University for School of Law in Boston, and just changed the trajectory because I saw, thank heavens, I saw a lot of my peers and people a couple of years ahead of me, and even further than that ahead of me, pursuing law but then struggling, not making money, working a substantial amount of hours, really without the reward, stressing, and that's not to say what we do, and debt. Yeah, in this country it pays, so it's very expensive to go to school. So 100%. That's another issue. 100%. You don't want to go to school for, you have hundreds of thousands in loans. And if you're not really enjoying the career path as well, So, but then I just figured economics is relevant to so much, because I, like you, went in thinking I was going to study English. And Spanish. Ended up being economics and Spanish, just realizing that econ can be utilized in various fields. And then Spanish just by default has essentially become the second language of our country. And because I do come from a background where I'm passionate and speak other foreign languages, I pursued it and hit the ground running and became a professor's assistant by my sophomore year, and then rolled from there. But anyway, the rest is history. The rest is history. And then came designations and all that, and I fortunately, I was recruited to the industry, and I hit the ground running, and with all the focus, it was not easy at first, created a passion, and then, here we are. Yeah, but it's nice to help others. I think you were very lucky in that you had very strong, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, you had very strong parents that kind of instilled that hard work ethic, because you don't get anything by not working hard. That's right. And if you had a different background, it would be potentially much harder, because you would have to be motivating yourself, and you have to keep yourself accountable. At least in those early years, you had
you had the backing of your parents. They were there making sure
Yes.
you're doing your homework. You're putting 100% of your effort. I think a lot of people don't have that,
And that is
and
true.
a lot of that's the reason why they might not succeed, because those initial years are so crucial to the development of the future.
It's true.
And
It
that's
is true.
that's probably
do
what,
see that.
what you're doing now for your kids. I'm sure you're making sure that they're exposed to a lot of things, and they putting a lot of effort into that.
We do our best. We do our best. We do our best.
That's great.
But you made a great point. It's not just those who might have some language barriers, maybe those first and second generation students here. There are a lot of American born who, might not have a parent or parents who are passionate about education, or they might not be very involved in their children's lives. So yeah, it might be a bonus to have a family who supports education and pushes you in that direction. I loved athletics. I loved, was kind of pulled into modeling and a little bit of pageantry and acting. And had I not been corralled by my parents to keep pursuing higher education, I might have fallen into one of those, which might have been fun and it's great. And maybe
right.
Hollywood, who knows? But there is something to be said about having
some oversight and making sure that
Yes.
you do your homework, you do your work, and you
Yes.
put in the hard yards.
Yes. But a lot of us fall into many different talents, industries, whether it be music or theater, art or archaeology or whatever it might be, and whether or not you've studied, and it might not be for everyone, but how you grow up certainly affects your future. And as an adult, you take your own path, but we just wanted to share a little bit of our backgrounds today so that you get to know us a little better. But feel free to hit us up with any questions or comments. We'd love to hear from you. And
it was great to have another podcast. Great to share our backgrounds. I think that is very important. Whoever you're working with, you want to know what they stand for. You want to know what work ethic they represent.
yes.
And I think me and Rulla, just by opening up and sharing our own personal story, I think that is hopefully relatable to a lot of you. So we'll see you soon.
Cheers. 2-minute, why finance? Why are we in finance, or why do we choose finance, or why are we here?
Why finance? Yeah, that's always a difficult question for me. I mean, I only had like 3 or 4 jobs that I could have gone into, 3 or 4 professions.
Otherwise,
I don't know what that's like. Stay wasting your time.
I get it though. They're like that. I know.
Like here, and you can basically study any bullshit. I think a lot of these things are bullshit. Like
they've come up with concentrations that are like what?
Communications and like what is that?
I mean,
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
So
yeah.
And then you go to school for 4 years, you have over $100,000 in loans, and you can't get a job.
I know. It is definitely that's
so,
a factor.
My parents were like always if you go to school for that long time, you don't want to waste your time.
Right.
And
it's
I think
true.
I think there's also more pressure on a man.
Especially culturally,
so,
maybe.
Being like a
yeah.
firstborn, I think that makes a little difference.
Firstborn for sure.
Yeah, there's more pressure to like do things.
The expectation.
Yeah, the expectation. But that's also for you. That must have been really, really hard because you were a girl. So I think.
They still have, even though, firstborn male is one thing. My brother came after me. But there are expectations, high expectations, and especially depending upon a background where, they don't want you to just, get married and have babies. And for some people, maybe that is the case, and that's wonderful, all the power to them.
Yeah.
But I think for someone like myself, there was more of more hopes and dreams.
No.
Like with you, as with you.
That's true. It's hard to say why finance. Why do you say? Because for you, it might be even harder.
Let's talk about it like this. Get in the frame. For the frame, pretend that's not even on. That's not even on.
You had so many options, especially as I say in this country, to study whatever you want to study.
Yeah, I think it was more
narrowed down to finance.
Narrowed it down to finance. I think part of it was just reading up on it and being recruited, and of course, you get a little finance background by studying econ, and then you realize that you can help people. You can also help yourself because you're learning about investing and tax planning and legacy planning and all these different aspects of finance. So I feel as though once you're in it, if you're in it with 2 feet and you see, there's also, of course, income earning potential and all that, but I think between being able to see others, see how much of an impact you can make on their lives, and finance is always relevant. It will always be relevant. People always need us. I think that's what grabbed me.
That's true. What about the competition? Because finance is so competitive,
So
and normally there's a high correlation between earning potential and competition.
Yeah, true.
How was that? How did that impact you, especially as a woman? How did you feel about going to such a competitive area that's dominated predominantly by males?
Great question. I think I never saw being a female as a hurdle. I honestly saw it as an asset. I felt like females, if you have it in your brain and that's your side of the brain, not only could I grasp and handle the numbers aspect of it and the planning aspect of it, but also women have that emotional component where you can appeal to, couples and other women and understand the emotional side of planning and needs and all of that. So I see being a female as an asset, but as you know, you and Al, I work with mostly male counterparts and always have, and it's been fun. I like working with males.
That's true.
Along with our admin staff, was really all female.
Yeah, and the stress aspect of it, how does that affect you? Because I don't know if females or males react better to stress. There's divided opinion, but of course your profession is very, very stressful. Yeah. What are some of the things that you do to kind of potentially cope with that, to de-stress, maybe some regular activities that you think about doing just to get away from the daily pressures of work in such a, demanding career.
Everybody says that. You're Wonder Woman, how do you do this and have kids and do I think the stress is mitigated, you get used to it. I mean, I think we all have different points in the career where we do have different stresses and experience that. So to help overcome it, I try to go zen and meditate. I love to ski. I do love to ski. It's seasonal, but it's a passion. I wish I could travel a little bit all year long to ski North and South America and overseas. It's not practical right now with children, but I just find little outlets, spending time with friends and family, and when we end our day, maybe once in a while we go out, have a drink, have some dinner, just decompress, and maybe not talk shop.
That's true.
Right.
Is that hard to do, to kind of, once you get out of here, whatever time you get out, or over the weekends, not to think about your work, or when you're on the ski slopes? Is that kind of always in the back of your mind, or
it
you often think about it?
It is. I think I definitely try to make a point, and you know very well, because I know you go pretty much 24/7. But I think it's important that we all take a little bit of time to shut it off, even if it's an hour or two per week, because it is a 24/7 job. I always let everybody know, unfortunately, we're not the types who can, sign in, sign out, or punch in, punch out. We're always researching, we are always reading, we are always working on cases, because there's always a need and demand.
So that's why checking your phone is not always that sometimes can be very draining, because you get constant messages. So being on the slope kind of frees you from checking your phone and being stressed by that.
Absolutely.
That allows you an hour or two just to get away from it all.
It does. So, that, and during season, boating too.
Boating.
Although boating, it's a little easier to pick up the phone, but with skiing, you have it in your pocket and you just go, and you're on the top of the world.
So skiing is your first love?
Well,
Other than boating.
I don't want to be in trouble about talking about my friend. Is it the kids? Is it Brian?
In terms of
like
boating or skiing, which one, if you could only do one?
Oh, that's a trick question. I can't answer that question.
That's a trick question.
How about you?
I had to throw one in there.
How about you? What is your, I know you love the gym.
I love the gym. I love working out. I like taking care of myself, eating healthy.
Yes.
Healthy body is a healthy mind. I think that's very important, not only to look good, to feel good, but it also creates a lot of confidence by the people that you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
So you're doing it for yourself, but also to the aura that you create around yourself. So I do spend a lot of time going to the gym and working out. I do love the gym.
TFW.
Shout out
Rhode
to
Island.
TFW, Rhode Island. We just opened up a new gym in February of 2024. So if you're looking to build a better body, healthier mind, I hope you can check us out. But I do play tennis, and of course I also travel a lot because my family's all around the world. So most of my
He gets yelled at for his travels, travel frequency.
I do get the younger. Rulla's got a big megaphone. And every time I know, she pulls up the megaphone and she goes, "Where?"
It's because I'm not as flexible to travel with his frequency.
Exactly.
One day I will be
I
again.
keep it under the carpet. I release it on a no-to-no basis.
Where in the world is Waldo?
In 2024, she doesn't know yet where I'm going.
Oh,
but
just give us a heads up.
yeah, so that's
That's
where I spend most of my free time, as I say, is in the gym and sometimes tennis and traveling.
Yeah, all great
To
things.
try and get away from it. And meditation is also very, very important. A lot of the top finance gurus in the world, Ray Dalio, for example, he meditates, and it's a very difficult process. It's kind of like a cold plunge. When you start off, you can't to shut your mind off for like 3 minutes. You think it's easy, but when you actually try and do it, it's very hard.
Yeah, you have to psych yourself to almost think of nothing. Think maybe black.
Yes.
And just darkness, like not darkness in a negative way, just darkness in a, like, let me not let one word or one vision go through my head.
Yeah, and that's actually how he starts off his day every single day, is for meditation. So it's something that's I definitely need more training on. And
Well, think about it though.
Yeah.
If we don't have these outlets, this goes for anyone in any career, not just finance. Too much of one thing is never good.
Yeah, it's never good. No, that's true.
So you need your little treats and your releasing your endorphins and all of, right? Doing things you enjoy outside of your career to be able to really put your all into your career, right?
How endorphins are sometimes released at Clementine.
Clementine.
That's another ad for local business. Support your local business.
We love Clementine cocktail, but although should we be giving that away? We'll see everybody there. I should give a shout out to Pure Bar, Rhode Island, especially in Lincoln, Rhode Island, and Club Pilates, East Greenwich and Johnston.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll end it on that note.
Cheers. Cheers. Now you made me want a cocktail.